guys, it's Jessii Vee. And yes, I'm once again wearing a Corpse Bride shirt, and I probably will in the next video as well. In today's video, I'm talking about some of the most dangerous fashion trends from history. I've done videos like this before, but I've never covered these exact topics. They are terrifying. I cannot believe people did these things. Before I get started though, in case you have not seen my previous 2 videos, I have a new backdrop behind me. It's Halloween themed, it's spooky, it's September, so it's spooky season now. And it's just so cool because there's like eyes and mouths behind me. It's just like a mush of scary monster and I love it. And if you would like to win it, all you have to do is be subscribed to this channel, turn on your notification bell, and then head over to my new podcast YouTube channel and click subscribe. Maybe comment something on one of my recent videos. This podcast is with my sister, Mandy V. We have episode 1 out right now and episode 2 is coming out any day now. So you can either watch us on YouTube or we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. But to win this backdrop, you have to be subscribed to that channel. I will link it down below. And last week, I also launched our new pocket hugs. These are so cute. They're kind of like greeting cards in the form of plushies. So you get a box like this, and this one says, "Let your," and when you slide it open, there's a little plushie inside, and this one says, "True colors shine," and it's a rainbow with a little face on it. There's also the ghost hug with a tiny little ghost plushie inside. It says, "You can't feel it, but it's there," and this is it up close. It's absolutely adorable. This one says, "Sending you a monster hug," and there's a little tiny monster there that's so cute. So we have so many different kinds on the website right now. They're only $5. I will link them down below, but it's so cool because the person you gave this to will take your tiny pocket hug and can put it in their purse, in their pocket, in their bag, wherever they go, and it will remind them of your hug, which I think is so cool. Anyways, guys, without further ado, let's talk about some very dangerous fashion trends. The first one is glow-in-the-dark hair and makeup. The first half of the 1900s, everything from clocks to lotions to lipsticks to face powder contained something called radium. It was basically this radioactive chemical that would glow in the dark. But of course, they did not know how deadly it was back then. And it was put inside makeup because it would literally make your face look like it was glowing, like you were angelic and beautiful. But there's a sad story about women that worked at a studio painting watches with radium so they would glow in the dark. They were known as radium girls because after some time, almost all of them died from reacting to the chemicals they were using. This was because after their shifts, they would be covered in this glowing substance, but they didn't think anything of it and eventually began loving their dresses glowing in the dark because they would wear them out to parties and everyone would just look at them in awe. Then they started to paint their teeth with radium so they would glow whiter and they would use it in their makeup as well. Eventually they became so sick, they got facial tumors, they had jaw rot, cancer, and then that just led to death. This chemical was just rotting inside the individuals that were using it. Then we have belladonna eye drops. In Renaissance Italy, the flower belladonna was used to make pupils bigger, giving women the look of doe eyes. And this doe eye look was just super attractive at the time for some reason. And the name belladonna is actually translated to beautiful woman as well. Well, people didn't realize that belladonna in all its forms is highly toxic. On the less harmful end, belladonna drops would cause blurred vision, temporary blindness, increased heart rate, and eye irritation. But on the other end, which would be really awful side effects, people could experience mental disturbances, convulsions, permanent blindness, heart damage, and eventual death. The plant shuts down some of the body's necessary life functions, such as sweating, breathing, and heart rate. So it's just not worth it to use these eye drops to look doe-eyed. And I think large pupils look scary on people anyways. Like whenever I go to the eye doctor and get those eye drops, I cannot look at myself in the mirror. I look terrifying. Then we have the corset, which was not really surprising to me that it's on this list because it's literally moving your organs and bones into a specific shape. A corset is an undergarment placed around the torso and chest of the wearer and tightened to enhance the waistline and the bust. They have a long history dating back to the late 14th century and have been worn by women throughout Europe. They've often been thought of as enhancing female beauty regardless of class, though were initially associated with the upper class. Corsets were often laced as tight tight as possible, leading to an inability to eat or breathe adequately. And they would often rupture internal organs, cause broken ribs, injured spines, and so many women died of corset-related causes like collapsed lungs, internal bleeding, and a lot of the times asphyxia, like they would literally faint because they couldn't breathe. And helping someone who was literally like choking to death from not being able to breathe was difficult because it took so long to take the corset off. So yeah, be careful out there if you're wearing corsets. I know people still do today. I don't know if it's as tight as they used to, but it can be dangerous. Then we have something called the fontage. A fontage was a headdress that stood tall on the top of the head, pinned to the back using a wire, and with the wearer's hair arranged on the top along with ribbons, lace, and ruffles. The headdress stood several feet high and was used throughout Europe during the late 17th and early 18th centuries. And in order to have this fontage stay upright, women would do everything in their power to stiffen their hair. This included using egg whites, starch, or flour for weeks on end, like without washing their hair, so that it stood up straight so you can put this headpiece on top. Now because of this, a variety of vermin including lice, mites, insects, and mice made themselves at home in some of these women's hair. And some headdresses were so high, they'd easily reach the height of lit chandeliers and catch fire, resulting in severe injuries. And what's so disturbing is that some women at the time suggested flattening a baby's head while they were still growing, so that when they were an adult woman, they could wear the headdress properly. That is so disturbing. Then we had things called chopines, or chopins, I'm not really sure how it's pronounced. Chopins were women's shoes created in Venice in the early 1500s. The shoe featured a large platform made of wood or cork meant to protect the foot from irregular roads and muddy streets, in addition to giving the wearer more height. They were often covered in gold or silk and could be measured up to 20 inches in height. And increased height was just like a show of your status. Like the taller you were, I guess the more rich and important you were. So as you can imagine, women were falling a lot, they were breaking their bones, snapping their ankles. It created a lot of injuries. And the thing is, back in that time, a lot of these bone breaks were life-threatening because they did not have x-rays, they did not have the proper medical care, so they would get infections and they would die. And lastly, one that really surprised me is the detachable Edwardian collar. Edwardian collars were high detachable collars worn mostly by men in the 19th century. The detachable collars made it possible to present a new look with the same shirt, saving time and money spent on laundering. Now, men of all classes wore these collars, and a lot of the time it had very stiff plastic on the inside of it to keep it sort of straight up. And the issue is, these collars were worn so tight that a lot of the time the men would choke to death, which I find so strange because if you're struggling, like just take it off. Like I feel like it's not that hard to take off. It's like a button and then it's off. I guess the whole point though is that if they took it off, they wouldn't look as important. Like they just had to keep it on and like bear through it. Because of all the people who died wearing these, they were eventually called the father killer. They could at times cut off circulation to the brain, causing neck swelling and slowly depriving an individual of receiving an adequate oxygen supply to their brain. So they would be at a party or event and they would just lose consciousness, which is terrifying. Now guys, during my research, I found so many disturbing and dangerous fashion trends. So if you want me to do a part 2, give this video a thumbs up and let me know. And don't forget, if you want to check out our podcast, I've linked it down below. And if you would like a pocket hug, I've also linked that. But I hope you have an awesome rest of your day and I will see you in my next video. Bye! I think it was my grade 1 teacher who, if I didn't finish my sandwich, she would make me eat it, like would make me finish it. And I remember crying and being like, I can't finish the whole thing. And if I went and snuck and tried to throw it in the garbage, she would take it out of the trash because it would still be in the sandwich bag. And she'd be like, you have to finish it. And one time she called mom and she was like, you know, she's not eating her full sandwich. And mom's like, that's fine. Like, what are you trying to do?